We're now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah, nearly.
I'll let you know when it's running.
Right. It's going.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Well, let's open a meeting. Could you let everyone in, Mark, who might be in the virtual lobby? Thank you.
There's 4 members for the public.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, big screen.
Splendid. Good evening, everybody, and good evening to residents joining us as well for this meeting. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. It's kind of customary if you're not speaking to go on mute unless you have a lot of faith in your own quietness, so that'll be really helpful. We're going to adjust the agenda slightly this evening. Obviously we've got a planning application in for nearby Newton, which is obviously causing a lot of interest. So I propose to move that up the agenda, followed by potentially another application as well, and then revert back into the public session. I think that might be a lot more convenient for most residents who are attending. So just before we get there, let's just move to our item 1. So Anita, could you just advise us of any apologies, please?
Yeah, apologies from Sue Wemborn, Adrian, Terry, David Rushton will be here, but he'll be late.
Right, okay, thank you very much. And any declarations of interest, please? Splendid, thank you. In that case, I'll...
Really slow.
Oh, sorry, Claire.
Sorry, it seems very slow now. Yeah, I have an interest in the Newton application for W.M. Elliott, because my daughter works there, so I won't be getting involved.
Okay.
And obviously, Chairman, I live in Newton.
Thank you. Thank you very much. In that case, again, as I said, what we'll do is just before we go to the public session proper, I'd like to deal with that particular application, which currently falls under item 5B. And I'm going to assume that obviously a number are here to make representations as well. So I'm going to ask Peter, who obviously, as you've heard Claire's interest, just to lead in introducing that application and to summarise summarise the points that have certainly come our way either from councillors or from residents to date, and for Peter to give us that overview. And then I'm going to ask any residents who have a view on that as well, have any additional information to please tell us, please let us know. So again, we have received a lot of useful information. Thank you very much. But again, hopefully, I think we've captured quite a bit. But if you think it's pertinent and we don't have it, please let us know. So Peter, would you mind just giving us, I know all councillors will have read the application, but if you give us the briefest of overviews and then some of the points that have been made, please.
Yes, pleasure. Okay, the application is for development of 1.75 hectare site near to the buttery, and it's to construct a caravan park for 96 caravans, surrounded by a 4 metre high soil and grass bund. There are a number of documents within the pack. Significant ones are the application itself and the planning statement. The key points that we should perhaps be referencing on that. On section 18 under employment, it does clearly state that there's no new jobs created, so it isn't to be seen as a major creation of new jobs. Strangely, underneath the planning statement, under section 4.16 and 4.17, the applicant makes a lot of reference to planning policy, joint core strategy planning policies 22, 23 and 25 regarding the target of 31,100 new jobs. But as I say, I think that reference is fairly irrelevant because it does state in its own application that it doesn't create any new jobs anyway. I don't know if anybody, or if you've all picked up, but the ownership is shown as Boughton Estates, and they have been notified according to the pack of the planning application. The key aspects under the planning statement are referenced the paragraph 6.25. They talk about negligible amounts of traffic journeys. 6.26, marginal increase in traffic movement to and from the site. 6.29, a willingness to advise all users and visitors to enter and exit via the A43 to the west of the site. It does also identify that paragraph 109 of the National Planning Policy Framework states that development should only be prevented or refused on highway grounds if there would be an unacceptable impact on highway safety, on the or the residential cumulative impact on the road network would be severe. The points we've had from residents include a lot of emphasis on the traffic being generated by the site. There are comments within the application that those would be primarily Friday evening and weekends, but there's no restraint on the use, and there's nothing that says it's anything other than a 24-hour access. There's note of the impact on insurance, that these are going to be probably expensive caravans, and if there are instances of damage on that site, then it could increase the premiums for the postcode. Light pollution, because there may well be, although it isn't detailed, there may well be a lot of lighting there for security. There are claims within the application that it increases the connectivity with the village, but it's debatable what is actually being connected to the village other than the caravan park itself. Again, emphasis on the traffic and people talking about whereas the road outside the entrance itself is one of the clearer, straighter, wider parts. The whole of that road is narrow, and it does take, by their own suggestion, they are talking about taking all the traffic past the Newton Junction, which has been a cause of some concern. There's a comment that it would compromise the rural character of Newton, and a couple of logistical issues. The bund, if the soil that's going to be used to create the bund is going to be brought onto the site, that would require 600 vehicle movements. This is a resident's estimate. There is no mention within the application of quite what the surface is going to be. If the surface is going to be mud, then it would be dragging a lot of mud out onto the Newton Road. If the surface, however, is going to be hardcore of some description, there would be probably another 200 vehicle movements to construct that. So that essentially summarises the points that I've pulled out from the application and the planning statement and the residents' comments.
Thank you, Peter. And David, just as councillor for Newton, before we allow, I'd like the residents to speak to augment anything Peter said. David, is there anything you'd like to highlight as well, in particular, amongst those points, or anything else? You're on mute, David.
Sorry, Chairman, I've been fully aware of what's happening. I have a policy here of sending out details to the residents of anything that's happening. And I'm grateful to Peter, because without his spotting the application in the first place, we had no knowledge whatsoever in the village, which I find very disappointing, but might point to the fact that there was an expectation that this would not be easily accepted. But all those issues are important issues. The widths of the road, I mean, in a sense, I'd be all happier if the traffic was directed into Geddington to the crossroads, because certainly going the other way, you could see people without creating passing areas. You can see all sorts of chaos. The road is banned to lorries, as we know, but we still get lorries coming from the farm through this way. But you can see the inherent danger of this type of vehicle coming through that very narrow section.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to invite Newton or other residents to comment. Would anyone just like to raise a hand from Newton who wishes to comment on the application? I have you as unknown host, sir. You just put your finger up. I'm not sure what your name is. You're on mute, sir, if you'd like to speak. Take it off mute. You're still on mute.
Right.
Right. I can now hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, it's Brian McCreary, resident
Fine.
of Newton. Thanks for
Thank you.
having the opportunity to talk. I've looked at the planning application, and most of the things I raised you've covered. Other than the fact is there's a couple of bits I'd like to add. The directing of traffic onto the A43 is not legally enforceable. I remember when we had the bypass built around Geddington, and I said, well, okay, we need to put a lorry ban on this road. And having spoken to the councillors, they said, well, we can't do that because the police can't enforce putting that restriction on it. So what is there to restrict people going past, driving through, into Geddington? So we'll have traffic coming in at both ends. So, we can't have a nice tidy one-way system like they're suggesting we could have. That's just not practical. The other point, and it's a valuable one, I've been speaking to other people who actually run caravan sites, storage sites in the local area. There is surplus capacity in them, more than double what is being suggested here. And the common theme was that a site of 100 people, of 100 caravans, is not a viable proposition and would never pay for itself. Now, if this is a commercial undertaking, then there is not enough revenue generated from this, even at near max occupancy, to employ a single soul. Now, if it's not viable, and I haven't taken into account repaying the capital, because there's a lot of capital to be tied into building this, it would mean that they would not be able to adequately maintain it. And that means a site that is not safe for the people using it or for the people around it. So yeah, that's my concern over, along with all the other environmental issues, which are genuine and concerning for people who live here, because we chose to live in this environment because it was quiet and rural and didn't have this sort of thing going on our doorstep. But it isn't financially viable, and I would like to see a statement from the family who run this are going to run this proposed site, of sort of the costs to support the fact that this is a viable proposition. But from what I've got, it's not. Okay, that's all I'd like to add.
Brian, thank you very much. I think that was quite useful. It's pretty interesting, the insight into capacity elsewhere. I think. Well,
no one in Newton has a caravan that I've seen. So everyone is going to be driving from Corby or Kettering in order to come here, or Desborough, all of which have sites, all of which have the capability and to expand beyond their current resources, and they do not have houses or villages next to them.
No. Someone did point out to me there's a very large facility in Weldon that may or may not have been the one you alluded to, which has, I think, 600 pitches.
No, it's another one that's got 800 and space for more.
Okay.
So that's.
Thank you, Brian. I'd like to invite others to speak. I'll just on the commercial side, it's a very interesting thing you said. Ordinarily, I'll take this under advisement. It's not normally a planning consideration that whether the enterprise is commercially viable. I will stand corrected on this by another councillor. However, in this application, a lot has been made of that and the fact that it needs to happen. So we may or may not mention. Mark, did you have a point on that?
Yeah, if it's on rural land and it's a business, they do have to show viability.
Splendid. Okay, thank you. And again, because the application actually makes quite some, goes some way to talking about that, I think it's probably only fair that that's our consideration, which I think Brian has articulated very clearly. Thank you, Brian. Is any more residents from Newton? If you just raise your hand, Kenneth Richardson, please.
Hello. I'd like to just emphasize the environmental or the potential environmental impact of the proposed development. Basically, what they're proposing to do is to turn a greenfield site into a brownfield site. That could be the thin end of a wedge. But there's also the fact that the site is adjacent to the site of a scheduled monument, a site of special scientific interest, a grade 2 star listed church, and several grade 2 listed buildings. There's also the archaeological potential significance given what used to be on the site of the Dovecut field.
Mm-hmm.
There may be the need for archaeological exploration to establish that. So there are quite a number, I think, of environmental concerns that need to be taken into account.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Kenneth. And obviously the Dovecut, unless I'm mistaken, is grade 1 listed, is it not? I think there's only 2 of that type in the country, or
Yes.
I may be wrong. So again, it's not exactly next to it, but it's a stone's throw. So it's a very interesting observation, particularly the archaeological side as well. So thank you.
On the environmental side, could I just add in the lighting impact? This is one of the very few dark. I think CPRE did a big piece of work on this many years ago, and it's one of the very few dark places in the county with without the impact of lights from any of the towns, and it would be a shame to spoil that as well.
Yes, and Peter, are we to assume from the application that these lights would be effectively 24/7? Is that the security justification, or is it not mentioned?
There's a lot of areas that aren't addressed within the application, which has surprised me because it's obviously it's a significant development, but no, there's not enough clarity on what their requirements would be on lighting. They are talking about a level of security at the gate, but obviously that wouldn't be manned security because it's not creating any jobs.
No.
And again, I mentioned earlier, there's no comment about what the structure would be. So whether it would be a sustainable urban drainage system, or whether it would need runaway, because it doesn't address the drainage from the site either.
Something else it doesn't address, Peter, if I might just add, you mentioned the gates, but of course the main gate is the entrance to the Buttery itself and the children's playground. And if they're going to have unmanned gates, how do people get access to the Buttery, which appears from the drawings to continue to be in place? There's no suggestion they're going to close down the shop.
No, that's right. They do show on the plan a facility for gating at the bottom end of the field. So they have addressed one of the logical concerns, which would be the delays in vehicles pulling off if they were going straight into there. So they're pulling off, going down the driveway to the Buttery, turning around and coming back into the site.
But that's got to be dangerous for the resident or the youngsters in particular, because that's where the playground is.
It certainly is. Okay. Roy, you had your hand up, sir. Would you like to address us on this?
Thank you. Roy Hargrave from the State. In his address, mentioned that a letter had been received where a calculation was put forward about 600 loads of soil needing to be transported. And these figures were submitted by somebody who was a waste management consultant. So I think they have some gravitas. If it is that there's an argument that they wouldn't be having the soil brought off-site, but would be using soil that already exists on-site, then the archaeological services of the county would have to be brought in because of its historic nature. It's likely that there would be some disturbance of soils which really should be recorded. There's other issues as well, but I'll be writing to Kettering Borough Council with those, and I'll be copying Councillor Rowley as well. That's all.
Roy, thank you very much for that. So again, thank you for just kind of augmenting the information we received then about the amount of material that would potentially have to be brought into the site as well. Thank you. And yes, please, obviously, write indirect. Is it Keith, sir? Do you have an interest in this particular point, or is it something else on the agenda, sir? You're on mute, sir. Sorry, if you're off mute. Yeah, you're still on mute, but we'll just see if you can get that to
Yeah, here I am. Sorry.
There you are. There you are,
Yes,
sir.
here I am. Yes, I do have something to say. One is concerned with so many caravans and the obvious security therein. What about overnight stays in caravan, illicit overnight stays? One doesn't know what happens until we get them. I don't know whether other inquiries into other caravan sites have found this problem, so to be. No.
I don't know if anybody else has a view on what Keith has just said. So that, I think what Keith's alluding to is presumably the facility does not want you staying in the caravan. It's a storage facility. What Keith's saying is that this could lead to people abusing that facility and actually staying there. If anybody has a view or a retort on that. Yeah,
could I just add in on this? It's Brian.
Brian, sorry, I couldn't see you speaking. Thank you.
Sorry. I used to have caravans for years and years and used storage facilities such as the one that's being proposed. My experience is that Keith is right, that does occur. The other thing that occurs is that when I stored vans, I would arrive through places that were fenced and gated to find that my caravan windows had been taken out because they were needed by other people and items stolen. So bringing in that many, sort of 100 caravans valued at £20,000 a piece, is quite a target for those with intentions to take possessions away from other people. And the other point that I wanted to make was the track into and out of the Dovecot is single track. And the point that David was making before is perfectly right. If you've got people coming out of the caravan park towing and you've got people coming in to visit the Dovecot, they're going to have to drive across the grass where the kids are playing. It's not, it's not a made-up road. It's a dirt track path. So I think it needs to be considered as well.
Yes. So a couple of things there. I'm just, if I look in attentive, it's just that I've got on the screen. I'm looking at the suggestion. I don't see any suggestion in the application that road will be enhanced or certainly not widened. That's not visible.
No, there's nothing in the application that says that it's going to be changed.
Thank you. And I've just got one question for yourself, Brian. And again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it sounds like you have a little more experience of this. What would be the normal, usual fee for somebody wishing to store their caravan or motorhome on one of these sites?
That's a really good question. I think the annual cost for an average van, hang on, I've got it here somewhere, I think it's about £350 a year.
Okay.
So that's for the sort of average caravan stored in a site locally with good security on the site as well. So very secure.
Thank you very much. Oh, go on, Keith. Another point?
Yes. Just one other query. It's well known in the village that NN141BW brings traffic into Newton Village, not to the Buttery. If we have vehicles towing caravans coming into Newton Village, it would be all hell to play.
Thank you. That's an interesting, well, that's a practical point, isn't it? That's how life is, and that is not going to change readily.
No.
Thank you. Unless any other resident has anything to say, I'd like to throw this open to councillors, please, who may well come back and refer to you. So I'll just throw this to councillors for any observation or question or point on this. John. On mute, John, sorry.
Just takes a bit of time to unmute. Yeah, I'm not sure about the impact on the archaeological features of the area, but I do have quite a number of other concerns. I've got a big concern about the lighting impact, and I do have concerns about the traffic impact. Whether the traffic goes one way or the other, there are concerns, although I would support David, I think, in that of the two ways that traffic can go to and from the site, it would probably be better through Geddington, but then we do have big issues with Newton Road. The other way would be really, really dangerous, I think. I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, I know these aren't houses, but they are 100 caravans. And I think it's outside the village envelope. I'll be advised on that. And how would we actually view 100 houses, 100 small houses being built, or an application for them to be built outside the village envelope in this area? I know we're not talking about that, but in my head, I do consider that. And so I've got quite a lot of concerns, really. Thanks.
Mark.
Thank you, Chair. I know I normally abstain from planning applications. I'm going to make an exception on this one because I'm going to ask to speak to the committee on this against it. To answer, well, to make comment on what John's just said, it is outside the boundary, massively outside the boundary when you look at it. Oddly, their design statement gives us every reason to object to it because it highlights lots of things that would get it objected, like it's outside the boundary and it's a protected village. If we tried to build one house outside of the village, outside of that envelope, they would have to jump through so many hoops. So fully agree with John, 100 caravans parked there would be a nonsense. The statement says that applications of this type on agricultural ground should improve employment, like Peter said. It doesn't, because they're not employing anybody. There's no facilities for an employee on site. It says that it should improve and enhance the environment and the rural setting. Well, you put the 4-metre bund around a massive area. Again, it doesn't match. You're not supposed to use prime agricultural land for building outside of the boundary. We know that this is prime agricultural land because it's used for the pick your own now. So it must be viable, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. The lighting isn't mentioned. So that would raise for me two arguments. One, they've forgotten it and there's going to be light pollution. Or two, they haven't forgotten it and it's going to be a dark 100 space car park. Crime will be rife. There'll be the security will be awful in there. As one resident who wrote to me mentioned, the caravan is more than half the width of Newton Road. So if one's going and one's coming, they can't pass each other on Newton Road. Disagree, well, kind of agree with David and John about stuff going to Geddington Way, but they won't get past Newton Road. If one car's parked there, that's it. They won't get past there. And trying to turn onto the main road is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare at the A4300 at the roundabout with a caravan. It's bad enough with a car. You've got the Newton Road entrance, the applicants, indirect applicants, the landowners aren't being very helpful with the Newton entrance, and yet they want to throw a significant number of cars with caravans with a stopping distance double of a normal car with a caravan on the back. I'm guessing because of the sheer weight of the caravan behind them. So that's going to make a dangerous junction 10 times at least more dangerous. And it's just absolutely ridiculous that the applicant even thinks it's sensible to have this sort of thing on there. So I will be voting against it here and at the, well, I won't be voting against it. I'll be speaking against it if it comes to committee.
Mark, thank you very much. That's very, very clear. Thank you. David.
Chairman, I'm going to have to leave the meeting now, but certainly my vote is against the development. And if I just thank the residents of Newton for all the information they provided, as well as attending this evening. So
Great.
apologies.
All right.
I hope to be back just after 9.
No problem, David. Thank you very much. Thank you. Does any other council wish to speak? Paul, do you have any comment on this or any question at all?
Yeah, just as a user of that road, it would be unadvisable, I would have thought. But the 4-metre bund directly next to the road would be a major security, because just a 4-metre bund with no other security measure would be a major concern as well. That close to the road, you could scale a 4-metre grass bank relatively easily. So without any other kind of security measures in place, I struggle to see how it would be secure.
Thank you, Paul. On that point as well, kind of working in the security area myself, once you're in and nobody can see you. I think that's the other point which Brian may have alluded to. Nobody's going to see you from the outside, and each one of those could get damaged or burgled. I don't have much to add, because I think everyone's pretty much said it very comprehensively, very emphatically. I'm just going to emphasise again the Newton Road. I use the Newton Road sometimes to drive from Geddington to the A43, as you simply two cars struggle to get past each other. A caravan and a car is really going to struggle, and one is probably going to end up in the grass verge at some point. It's not if, it's when. And particularly with two going, I'm sure it happens every now and then, but we're talking about increasing the frequency. Added to the fact of the Newton entrance already being of significant concern, and that's something unfortunately we've got a solution to. This, as Mark says, just manifests the problem 10 times over. So I kind of, whilst on one level I feel for the applicant, there are so many what I see as objections to this or reasons for not supporting, but the trump card has to be the highways angle and safety, and I think that's very, very clear. It's absolutely straightforward that I respectfully disagree with the application that says Newton Road is a long straight road. It isn't. Part of it is, a quarter of it is, the rest is not. It winds, and it is, once you're off it, you're off it, and you can career straight into a hedge. So I do differ on that point. That's my view, and I pretty much agree with what everybody else has said. And I, like David, I respect the time that residents have taken to attend. Pete, is there anything you'd like to say in closing? But because I'm happy to invite a submission.
Well, yeah, we've heard a lot of emphasis on a number of the aspects of this development. Obviously, our response can reflect as many of those we want. We do need to be ensuring that it is lodged on planning matters, and as I say, within paragraph 109 of the National Planning Policy Framework, it does state that development should only be prevented or refused on highway grounds if there would be an unacceptable impact on highway safety. And I think we've laboured the point that it would be unacceptable with respect to highway safety on a narrow country road, with the volume of traffic that will be generated, that could conceivably during the summer be a lot of traffic at a similar time. I think it's an unsuitable development for that area with that level of access.
Thank you. Would anybody like to make a proposal? Any councillor? Mark. Sorry.
Right. Merrily scrolling on the their submission documents. Yeah, I propose we object on the grounds that Peter said it's out, and also that it's outside of the boundary. It's on prime agricultural lands, and it breaks policies set up in the Joint Core Strategy and Emergent Plan 2.
Okay, would you add to that proposal the likely commercial unviability as well?
Well, that is the Joint Core Strategy and Plan 2 bits. I wouldn't specify. There's no need to specify them.
Just on that one point with the maths, we're actually seeing a turnover between 35,000 and 50,000 pounds from that site at the rates that one of the residents and myself have also looked at what rates there are, and it's not up for us. I would suggest to say whether 35 to 50,000 pounds income from a field is adequate or not, recognising that they are saying there's no labour, there's no extra wages therefore being paid. That is going to be a contribution to their business. So I think we're on fairly controversial ground if we're arguing the commercial viability.
But you've got to offset that 50,000 per annum income against the setup cost of chipping in at least 600 wagon loads of soil and tarmacking it and putting security gates on. Yeah,
I mean, it would be, I mean, you've got to do the maths and look at rate return, the sort of return on the investment. It would be many years before they're going to get their investment totally covered, but they could be doing it by way of finance. And if their finance cost is only 10 grand a year, it would leave 30 odd 40,000 of extra turnover. But I accept the point.
Okay. So Mark, your proposal is that it's running contrary to a number of areas of the Joint Core Strategy. And
the NPPF as well.
NPPF, particular emphasis on highway safety. It's outside the village envelope. It's on prime agricultural land. It has to be, because just over the dirt track, there's actually fruit and vegetables being grown.
Fruit and vegetables being grown on it now.
Yeah. So with that in mind, Mark, thank you for the proposal. Anybody second? John, I think.
Second it.
John, second it. Thank you very much. And that proposal is, of course, I'm sure, to not support this application. So all those who support that proposal to, or those who agree with the proposal to not support this application, councillors. Thank you.
With respect, Nick, I think Mark was actually suggesting that we object to it rather than not support it.
Oh, excuse me, Mark, was that?
You can put a objection, not support's the same thing as far as the parish is concerned.
Okay.
We can't object. We're not the planning authority.
No. Okay, so we just raise hands, please, again. So we'll go with the terminology not support. Those councillors, please. Thank you. Those who disagree and those who abstain. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Anita, do you have that recorded?
No, I can only see 4 along the top.
Okay.
So you'll have to tell me if there was any abstentions.
Yes, Claire abstained because she declared an interest. But other than that, every other councillor agreed with the proposal to not support this application. Peter.
Could just clarify that with 5 of us here, that gives us core 8. With 1 of us abstaining, does that still qualify?
Yeah, we need 5 people, 5 councillors taking part, and there's 7 of us.
6. 4, 5. There's 6 councillors here. So even if,
oh yes, sorry, Paul, you're down the bottom there. I apologise.
He's hiding in the dark. So yeah, splendid. Thank you, residents of Newton. Thank you very much. I know some of you have taken some time out to do research and join us this evening. Thank you. Hopefully that's I get the impression that's the outcome you're looking for. So look, I appreciate the time you've taken to say during this and this evening as well. So if there's anything else, you're free to go, of course, or you can stay for the remainder of the meeting. It's entirely up to yourselves. But thank you very much for taking part.
Chair, they can follow it on YouTube, obviously.
Yes, that's the alternative. So you don't have to keep a straight face. You can watch us on the internet.
It will be trending, I believe.
Can I just say thank you to you all for that very positive discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Can I second that too?
Thank you, Brian. Appreciated. Splendid. Right, we'd better expedite the rest of the business. So thank you very much, everyone from Newton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring us back to the public session now, given the applicant for the Queen Street application doesn't seem to be here. Alison, thank you for sitting patiently. I think you're used to our ruminations by now, so thank you very much.
Yes.
So Alison, you had a little something for us, some ideas.
Yes, well, I really wanted to speak briefly just to say, as you all know, a couple of years ago, I was more involved coming along to parish council meetings because we're developing a village travel plan. Well, I've been busy with things, but now I really would like to pick that up again, and it would be really good to have the parish council behind us on that. There are a couple of issues that sort of currently at the moment related to travel in the village that I also wanted to mention. I know there's a discussion about pedestrianising the bridge, which personally I think that's a fantastic idea. If you make it easy for people to walk and cycle, and you make it a little bit more of a challenge to drive, like you have to go round the other way, you are more likely to get people walking. So if you've got people the other side of the village who want to take their kids to preschool, they'll be much more likely to do so if they can't actually drive across. So I mean, I work in travel planning. It's the profession I'm in now and have been for the last 16 years. So I have got experience that I can bring to the plan. The other thing is with the car park, which I understand is, I'm not sure if it's been approved or passed yet, but I understand it's likely to be coming, the extension of the car park. I do have a question about that, whether the extra access is going to be available all the time or only during events, because I'm thinking you'll be getting people coming and parking on that grassy extended bit right next to the park when they don't need to, when the car park is empty, unless there's some sort of way of reducing access until the times when you do actually need it, which is when you've got the big events. I don't know, you maybe already answered that in previous sessions. So those are the two issues at the moment. The other thing generally is I think it's really important that we develop a village travel plan now. Mark and John, obviously you've been really involved in this through the Let's Get Going group, so it's good that we've got that support already. But the government is putting £2 billion into active travel at the moment, and they have started releasing funding through Northants Highways and other highways agencies. That's just the tip of the iceberg, what they've released already. They're going to be releasing a lot more, and they will be releasing it to organisations, councils at all levels who have plans in place. They will be looking for oven-ready plans. So if we have a plan, a wish list, it can be a dream list of what we would like in order to promote cycling, walking and general accessibility in sustainable ways to the village. If we have that in paper as document, we will be ahead of the game with that, and we'll be much more likely to draw funding into the village. The other final thing is our social enterprise Bright Kids has been started in Geddington with the Geddington walking bus 17 years ago, and then we moved to Kettering. We're actually about to sign the lease on one of the units on Grange Road, so we're very, very happy to be coming back to the village again, and we really want to be part of the community more and to help where we can, which is with our expertise on travel planning. So I'm just asking really the council and anyone else who's around to let me know that you have your support behind us and what we want to do. And I really look forward to working with you all and being much more involved. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison. So look, I think there's a couple of questions there, and obviously the main point about the travel plan. So I'll answer the first. I'll then just quickly defer to Peter over the car park, and then we'll just talk briefly about the wider issue. So just as regards the bridge, that's very much in infancy. So at the moment, we are due to talk about it briefly later on, We're just looking at legal viability at the moment before we do anything. And that started off when we started to look at the Ford and what we could and couldn't do regarding gates or anything a bit more permanent to basically save people from themselves kind of driving in and getting flooded or washed away. And then another councillor picked this up a month or two ago and says, look, what about pedestrianisation of the bridge? So we're going to touch on that briefly later on, but that's very much in the kind of, is it even legally possible at this stage?
The government pushing on that.
Yeah, and so like I say, we may hear more about that a bit later, but obviously as we get down the track, that might dovetail into the things you were saying. I'm just going to defer to Peter over the car park and what he can briefly tell you where we are and what the plan would be as regards universal access to that.
Okay, there is the agenda item later on, and I'll do a fuller briefing on the status at that stage. Just specific point that Alison raised there, which was about the essentially closing off the new area and securing that such that there's limited use of that. It didn't feature in our original plan. We did the working group did look at it, and it was a question of, well, how would that be manned and what were the advantages and disadvantages of it. One of the disadvantages initially was that it would have reduced the capacity of the car park by 1 because the angle of the existing barrier goes across it. I say very briefly, one of the respondents, the consultees on it is the police, and we do have a police comment that they were suggesting we might wish to consider that if we wanted to have the opportunity of keeping the lower car park more secure when it wasn't required for the larger events. So that is something that I will be later on bringing back to council for some discussion anyway. But it has advantages and disadvantages about access and control. It is something that it would have to be done essentially seasonally in some fashion, because obviously if it's been open at any time during the day, somebody could go down there and park and you wouldn't be able to bring the barrier back up because there could be somebody leaving their car in there. So it could be there would be a seasonal nature to opening and closing the lower car park.
Thanks, Peter. John, on mute.
I know, I'm just sitting in a funny position, so I can't unmute very easily. Yeah, I'm just wondering whether, and this is a little bit off topic, I suppose, but it's still car park and it fits in with sort of green travel plans and things. And I'm just wondering whether at some stage, and I don't think it comes into the car park extension, but maybe we could consider putting in some cycle racks at the village hall on the car park. And also wonder where we've got to in terms of electric charging points for electric cars. So I've sort of snuck that in, but it is sort of car park related and it's green. Thank you.
Thanks, John. There's obviously a wider topic here, and I'm always anxious, especially because Alison's usually so helpful to us. Alison, on this the whole travel plan, what do you need from us? Do you need the time and space to address us fully? Would you like some councillors to join with you in a little working group? How can we take this forward? Because as you've seen, no surprise, tonight's a packed agenda. What do you need from us at this stage? So as you say, and I'm very eager, if we can get ahead of the game, what would you like us to do so we can help ourselves?
Well, I know John and Mark obviously have been involved, so hopefully both of you would still be interested in being involved more. I don't know, because you may have other responsibilities on. So it would be good to have at least 2 parish council members on the work on a working committee. Now, I've actually done quite a lot of work into developing the travel plan, but to be a really good one, it needs to have lots of consultation with local people. So it could be that I need a hand with just publicising things like we're looking for people to hand out surveys, or I mean, like we did that before, but there could be other things, there could be other tasks that need doing. And something that I've personally struggled with is getting like the population data and statistics, and that is what needs to go into the travel plan as part of the site audit. And so somebody who's knowledgeable about local numbers of residents and things like that, that will be really good to be able to tap into someone's knowledge. So I mean, I can put together a better idea of what I need and put it to you, and then if someone says, oh yes, I can help with that, or I know someone who can, that would be really good. But it'll be really overall really important to have the parish council's support in you know, just in theory behind it to start with anyway.
Thank you, Alison. So councillors, anybody have any view on that? It sounds very sensible and logical that we support this. Has anybody got any comment on that?
I'm happy to help with that.
Just in terms of general support, yeah, Peter?
I really only say, show me something that has substance to it that we want to talk about. Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of laudable ideals. So, you know, when there's something that Alison wants to, or anyone wants to put before us for consideration and action, then it's going to be easier to come up with a judgment on it.
Okay. Mark, Claire, Paul. Sorry, go on, Alison.
Can I just say, I did actually submit a draft copy of the travel plan about a year and a half ago to all the councillors. That's as far as I've got. So I would be doing some more work on that, but it should be somewhere in your inboxes from a long time ago, but it's hard to expect people to still have that. But I don't know how many people looked at it or commented on it. I didn't actually get any direct feedback from anyone other than Mark and John already working with it.
Okay. So, okay, Paul.
Sorry, yeah, I'm absolutely happy to get involved and help in any way that I can, really.
Okay, Mark or Claire, any comment at all?
No, but you know, I can get involved. Just have to ask. I'm always happy to help.
Mark?
Yeah, I agree with what Peter said.
Okay. So look, John and Paul, you volunteered again, and I hear what Peter said. So, and I agree, John and Paul, if you don't mind linking in with Alison, just understand a little bit more, and then bring something to us that's just a little bit more tangible. You know, because I think there's a little bit of chicken and egg here, but say Alison's trying to break the cycle. So if John and Paul don't mind touching base with Alison and just bring forward, and again, pretty much this is A, B, and C, and we'd like D to achieve E and F. That would be really useful. So we've got intangible terms. So John and Paul, thank you for volunteering. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alison, thanks very much for your time, and thank you for sitting through the other application. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll say bye now. Bye.
Take care. Cheers. Thank you. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening. How are you? All right?
Oh, we're good. Thank you.
Good.
Right. Splendid. Right. We better move on. So 2B, reports from county and borough councillors.
There's no report coming from the county, from Councillor Perry.
Okay.
From a borough point of view, we've got the one and only Rural Forum tomorrow. That's one of the forums that's been dropped because of the officer time, just isn't there to provide support. There's a consultation about to start on the council tax relief for the new unitary. I think the recommendation is 25% relief. That will be a reduction for Kettering. Corby will have a fairly big increase. East Northants and Wellingborough will have a small increase. The planning applications for, or planning for housing for Scott Road and Albert Streets. That's 22 bit houses and 6 bungalows. That's been approved. That's moving forward, and the contract's been approved now. So we'll see building's already started on Scott Road for that, and there'll be more housing coming through for Stamford Road, where the old Methodist church is. There's 6 houses for adapted houses there, and the Lawrence site in Desborough that's been derelict for many years. We're hoping to get that all through planning by the time Borough Council is dissolved in March. Other than that, things are slowly coming back now. More and more departments are they were working before, but are at full strength now, even just working from home. Car parks are still free at the moment, but that's going to be reviewed, mainly because of the fact that a lot of people working in the town centre are now using the car park. So when people come in at 9 o'clock to do the shopping, which is the whole reason for doing the free parking, there's no space. So I've put a proposal forward that would solve that. So hopefully we'll get moving on that, and we'll know a bit more about that next week. But other than that, everything's plodding on nicely, unless anyone's got any questions or anything crops up while we're talking.
Okay, any councillors, any questions for Mark on the borough level? Okay, thank you very much. So let's move on then. So item 3, minutes of the last meeting. So those minutes have been, draft minutes have been circulated. Does anybody have any comment or view on anything there? Incorrect. Again, I'm just trying to juggle screens. So no, that's nothing from anybody. In that case, could I have a proposer, please, that we accept those minutes? Peter, thank you. And a seconder. John, thank you. All those in favour of accepting those minutes? Let's just see a show of hands. Thank you. I've got 4 there in favour and against. Abstain. 2. Thank you very much. Right, let's pull them up. We'll just take matters arising and actions. Just excuse me a moment. Thank you. And again, please shout up if I accidentally go over something. So I'm just going to go on the previous matters arising. Oh yeah, that gate at the back of the recreation field. Mark, did you get a chance to go look at that bracket at the back of the recreation?
Yeah, I've got the part, but the weather's been too bad to wield a massive hammer to knock it in. So as soon as I've got time and the weather's good, I'll go and do it.
Okay, thank you very much. Just looking at previous progress, this is the Anita, the spreadsheet listing the incidents, and I believe this was flooding incidents. Cross-reference.
I've done another 2 years. We've moved on 2 more years.
Okay, now look, that's really, look, this
slowly getting there.
This was never going to happen overnight, Anita. So thank you very much. That's fine. You know, we don't expect that. It's good that you've done that. Thank you. Just on this action, on this previous 10/8/20, this was contacting Boughton and Rachel replied. This is all regarding the post office. Do we have any other communications on that? I've got something rattle around in my mind. Did we get anything later on from Rachel or not? Or was it the last one was she will come back and consult with us when she knows what's happening? I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Peter, did you have
I was in touch with her and I did circulate her response, but
yes.
There's no change from the as is.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, the action 1 from that, the email from Rachel to be circulated, and I think that's been circulated. Thank you. And just on the land registry, I think that's further on, hasn't it, Anita? And we can cover that off in the later point.
Yeah, it
as
is.
well. We are going to have to be very brisk tonight. So forgets by the Ford. There is a point. Oh, action 2, the clerk to write to the Highways Authority. So we got a response on this, didn't we, from the Highways Authority about whether we could put gates across the Ford. And I don't know if they made a typo. I think what they were effectively saying is, no, you can't. Only the police and the Highways Agency can block it off. But they went on to say the parish council can do that. But I think they meant that we can't, is how I read the email, and that they made a typo. Did anybody else notice this?
Chair, I think what they meant is that we can go to Highways and the police to ask them to close it off. But
yeah,
given their response, it's their responsibility. And we should make it clear that we can't block it off. So therefore, if someone drives in, it's the highways problem, not the parish council's problem.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Right. Yeah. So that, yeah, I didn't read it like that. So thanks, Mark. Yeah, because I kind of read it that they'd made a typo and said we can't, but that makes sense now. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry. I haven't got the hand of juggling screens yet. Just a moment. Sorry about this.
Get 2 screens. that makes a big difference to me.
Oh, that means twice as much work, David. I won't be doing that.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
Right, action number 3, Councillor Paddock worked the Council of Buxall to pull the response to the white paper together to agree the clerks capture the main points, but still worth waiting for the outcome of the NCALT meeting. Yes, we're going to hear about that shortly, aren't we, Claire? We've got an agenda point on that. Is that correct?
Only if you're referring to the second white paper, which is still in progress, but the other one, the first one, that's changes to the current planning. Yeah, I sent out that comment.
Okay, sorry, yes, I've got get confused with my white papers. Thank you. Easily done. Sorry, yes, because action 4, of course, was the planning subcommittee. Yes, that's right, and we're gonna talk about that shortly. Thank you. And you've certainly been pulling things together. Thank you. Okay, that's action 5. Action 6, clerk to ask the KBC for more training for planning regulations to lead to more efficient planning application feedback. I don't know if I've seen.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go on, Nita. I've seen something from NCALC, which might be a later action, which is around new councillors, but this is something about planning regulations.
Yeah, I have sent it off. I haven't had any reply yet. I sent it to customer services and asked them to forward it on to planning because I wasn't quite sure who it should go to in planning. I haven't had a reply yet, but I can give them a chase email.
Okay. Before you do, Anita, John? You have to change your position, John. Can't hear you. John, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm not now. I can see I'm not. I'm wondering that whether NCALC would actually at this stage be more useful, given the stresses that catering officers are bound to be under at the moment. It will be, I'm sure Mark would agree with that. That maybe NCALC would be more helpful in terms of putting something in play for training. I do think we need it.
KBC won't be doing any training.
Yeah, exactly.
Anita, then Peter, please.
I was just going to say, bearing in mind as well, the last time there was an officer from KBC who came to give planning at the village hall. I think some of the councillors who attended said it was a very dry session, and I don't know whether it focused on local issues as much as what they thought it were going to. So perhaps if you can give indication what you would like delivering from an NCALC training session, it may be more relevant to what you want.
I've got an answer to that, but Peter, sorry, you had your.
Yeah, it really was the point I thought Anita was going to make. She did circulate the available courses from NCALC, and there isn't a planning course that's being run. So they would be requiring them to put something unique together. I don't know how successful that would be, but it isn't one of the ones that was on their syllabus for as available.
Go on then, Anita. I was going to answer your question, or
They have said in the past, though, that if there is anything that councillors would like to be delivered, they are more than happy to, you know, listen to the suggestion and come up with a response if it's you know, if it's something they can do.
I'll see what anybody else says. I really think, yeah, and I think NCALC aren't too bad actually at delivering these courses, because I think they do make them very vocational and not dry. I think this has to be back to basics. This has to be, what are the material planning considerations, what can be considered, and it might change. I mean, Mark mentioned earlier on about, you know, the rural context, you know, where you can look at kind of viability of commercial enterprise, and what are definitely out and why. And I think that helps not just, you know, Claire, it helps any of us articulate to residents in a very nice way, and especially me as the chair, that's great. That's not a material consideration. Now, we can read up on all this, but I think, you know, a good half-day course with potted examples, and also referring again vocationally to some of the, you know, the MPPF or even the local, the joint course, that would be good. That, I think that would be really helpful. That's really what we're after. What I wouldn't want it to be, this is just my own view, is something kind of more philosophical, or getting involved, or getting into these white papers. I think it has to be the role of the parish councillor faced with a planning application. I think that's very much what I think is valuable for us. Peter, did you have a hand up?
Yeah, I did. I know you won't be able to read it, but I did circulate that the planning aid for material planning considerations, and 2 backup pages of what planning considerations are and aren't. I'd circulated that like 2 years ago. I could certainly circulate that again, because it does do what you were talking about. It does detail these things are valid planning objections and these things are not. And it is a Planning Aid England is the site that I used. So no problem to circulate those anyway.
Yeah, please do, Peter. Anita, please ask NCALC, and then we'll make a decision next time for anybody who wishes to, if they come back with anything, and we'll look at what Peter circulates as well, please.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Right, excuse me. The risk assessments register, this was consequential loss. Council Fault will take this up with the insurers and amend the risk assessment register. Adrian did send something out just earlier on with his apologies, and I've confessed I've not read it properly, but it looks like some of the action's complete, but I just haven't had the chance to read through it. Anita?
I've got it in front of me, that 3-line paragraph relating to it, if you want me to read it out. There's 3 lines relating to this.
Go on then, yes, go on.
It says see response below. See response below. Received from our insurance ref consequential loss question from the risk register. And as per the current, he's cut half the words off, between us, we regularly check the PC assets around the village in order that we are covered for these potential misadventures. Can I suggest we have it's cutting off the right-hand side, an audit trail should the claim arise.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it's cut some off. And then there's a long email below.
Anita, let's just try and get as a very quick item on the next. We haven't got Adrian, we haven't got David. So I think let's get that on the next meeting agenda, please, to get this. I think Adrian was saying, look, if we do this, then it looks okay. But I think without Adrian and without David, I think we're kind of half-cocked a little. And I think it's better just to defer that. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Here we go. Action 8 was training, and again, anything beneficial for new councillors. As we just heard, I think Anita did circulate the NCALC list, and I noted that there is a Off to a Flying Start course aimed at new councillors, or indeed it says any councillors looking to refresh. And there's one on the 7th of December. It'll be a virtual course, 1:30 to 4 o'clock on the 7th of December. I'm not sure what day of the week that is, actually. But I mean, the cost is it £44 for NCALT members, 88 if we're not, Anita? So we're £44 per delegate, I assume.
Yeah.
I think I did that course in the early days, and I actually found it quite useful. And I would commend that to anybody here who's not done any kind of course. Paul?
Yeah, I'd be very keen.
Yeah, Paul, definitely. So, and like I say, so again, it's there's no shame. We could have been here for 5 years, 20 years, but again, it's a pretty good course to refresh. It really doesn't cost very much at all. 7th of December. So if we did need to vote on the spend, we could do so at the November meeting. I'm going to suggest that if you are interested, contact Anita. She can check if spaces are there, potentially make a provisional booking. And because there is spend involved, we can approve that at the November meeting if that's to everybody's agreement.
You don't normally vote on spending on training.
Oh, do we not? Okay, I was just being cautious.
Well,
All
I'll,
right.
I'll check with Mark, but I can't ever recall that there is, because there is a training budget, or at least they're supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay. Which I'm sure we haven't used much of. Okay,
No.
then, Anita. Sorry, if you don't mind just highlighting that bit and emailing all councillors, because obviously we're a little low on numbers tonight. I'd just like everyone to be able to see that. Obviously, Adrian's relatively new. He's not with us at the moment. So I think that would be useful just to emphasise. But please contact Anita directly. But like I say, I've did it. I think it was quite useful.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. GigaClear. Okay. Matt and Glyn to be contacted to convey the frustrations and the lack of communication with either residents or the parish council. Now, only because we're running short of time, Anita, could you let us know, did that happen and did we get anything back, or?
Well, actually, Matt sort of preempted us because he got in, I think, did he get in touch with you, Peter, initially? I think he did, didn't he?
Yeah, they were invited to the last meeting. They couldn't make the last meeting. I expressed their apologies at the last meeting. I gave them feedback after the meeting to say, okay, I had expressed their apologies. There were a number of issues that were going to be addressed, and the normal course of things would be that you would address them in writing to them. They did ask me if since they were very active within the village, could they not get a quicker feedback and could I not speak to them? So I did speak to them and then made them aware of some of the issues, and that's why he put it in writing back to yourself. He looked at the YouTube video of our meeting, extracted the salient points from that, and responded back to you on those in writing.
Yeah, though the only issue he didn't address, I think I copied you into it, didn't I, was the fact we'd said that there wasn't enough, there wasn't anything put on Facebook, I believe,
Yeah,
which they said they would.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You did put that in your mail in response. I haven't seen anything that answered that. He did actually cover that when I was speaking to him. When I was speaking to him initially over the phone, they're not allowed to be putting on posts on Facebook. Everything has to be through Liz Faulkner. So the suggested mechanism that Nick was very keen on, that we had discussed with them in the past, which was, why don't you put, we're going to be working in Geddington Close tomorrow morning on Facebook and those sort of things. He said that they're under their controls. They're not allowed to be putting things on Facebook.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think some communication would be better, because obviously I know it was over a week them traffic lights are up near Mark's place. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And then I mean, they're still up there now.
Yeah, if only it was a week.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, I mean, I wouldn't mind if there actually was some work to be done. I mean, if they're waiting for cable or whatever they're doing, could they at least not have like filled it up? 'Cause, I mean, that's the main. I mean, that's the main route into Geddington. I mean, thank God we had that bypass in. I mean, can you imagine what it would have been like without that bypass?
Yeah, but caravans everywhere.
It is the same. It is the same story, though, isn't it? It's the same story as we had when they were doing West Street, and it's so frustrating.
But did I hear?
There's been no communication in Skeffington. They've trashed the green and the green space at the top. They've basically removed all the parking areas for people in Grange Road, so that you've had to park halfway down Skeffington or elsewhere. Then we had the delight at the weekend of took the traffic lights away and then coned off the road. So unsurprisingly, all the cones are now on the footpath because it was absolutely ridiculous. The only good bit is that the tarmac they've laid is pretty good. It's pretty flat. That's the best bit of it. But they have got loads of supplies. They're all dumped at the top of Skeffington Close and at the entrance to the industrial estate, so the trucks can't get in. The lorries are having to reverse down Grange Road onto the main road to get out. It's bonkers.
I mean, it's once again their customer service. Well, it's not just, but it certainly is the customer service. They really need to do some work on it.
Yeah,
and we gave them the signs last time. We told them.
And their health and safety was a lot to be desired. They got rid of that crew pretty quickly when I started taking photos and threatened to send them to the health and safety because they've got no segregate. The footpath diversion was through there where they were digging the road up or resurfacing it. There was no segregation of the work and pedestrians.
They can't do it near the ford, isn't it? Because then they could close the ford off for a few weeks.
Well, Queen Street's going to be fun.
Yeah,
Blimey.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, Peter.
Yeah, we've got 8A, which is to discuss the update on GigaClear. In anticipation of that, because I hadn't seen anything coming from them, I did drop Glyn an email at about 5:30 tonight, and he did give me an update, which I was going to feed out and 8A.
Right, thank you, Peter, and we need to expedite and get to there, don't we? Okay, so let's move on. The next action was yes, the HGV access. Clark to ask Rachel to remind the tenant farmers of this. I think we've had 2 responses from Rachel, haven't we, Anita?
Well, she got back about this one. She got back today. I have forwarded to all councillors, but I didn't pick it up till about 6 o'clock. She says, interestingly, I have Morris recently, who I have seen driving towards Geddington from Grafton. These are neither our in-hand farms or that of the tenant farmer, so these may be the ones causing the issues. I am sorry to say this issue and the route lorry drivers choose to take is really not something I am able to control. Maybe increased signage at Grafton Crossroads may help. So basically she's saying she can't help, but she doesn't think it's their tenant farmer or the in-hand farm's fault.
Yeah, I wonder if Grafton Underwood Parish Council will allow us to put signs up there saying putting all the traffic through their village. Yeah.
I mean, on that, the weight limit of Grafton Road is for loading only, isn't it? So if they're not accessing farms along that road, then it's illegal.
Peter has an anecdote on this off the field. Paul, I think you'll be able to let you know exactly.
Yeah, it does. There are so many exceptions to that. It is loading, unloading for business. Agricultural vehicles are exempt. Public service vehicles are exempt. Buses are exempt. anybody entering that area wishing to get to another area is exempt. So essentially, it is it's a restriction in name only, and over and above all of that, it's not enforced. So there really is no benefit in the 7.5 ton signage. It does say access only, because and highways have explained that's because they haven't got enough room to put on loading and unloading and delivering of business goods.
I think if we could identify the hauliers, though, and most have the names plastered all over the cab, being in the transport business, a well-worded letter might do the trick in terms of stopping most of it if they're not actually accessing businesses. We
have done that in the past, yeah.
Okay.
It is a question of identifying any particular vehicle that goes through.
We occasionally see this on Facebook, and I think, to pick up Paul's point, maybe our stock response, I'm not saying it has been in the past, shouldn't be, well, oh, there's going to be a parish council meeting, we'll raise it, but rather, okay, please take a photograph or note it down and let us know. And I think that would be more helpful than, we know is a problem, don't keep coming back and telling us. Please note if you can, please take a photograph if you can, as long as you're not identifying an individual person, and get that to us.
Yeah,
I think that would be more useful, Paul, to pick up your point. So yeah, and I just think if all of us as councillors take that same message away, that would be more productive.
Chasing lorries doesn't help. Some information about whose lorry it is has some power.
Yes, yeah. It did kick off on Facebook a few weeks ago, and obviously it was quite divisive again. But yeah, I think we need to identify who it is. At the end of the day, farmers need to get their produce in and out. They don't need to take my thatch roof though with it. That's
thing is Boughton used to be, I know when we used to talk to Rachel, I think it was Chris before, they used to be quite proactive on this issue, particularly if it was anything related to Boughton. But obviously it just seems to me that they're just washing their hands of it.
Well, they are, Dave, because they can, and because, to be fair, we don't know. This is the point everyone's making, Paul's making, Peter's making. We don't actually know who it is because we actually haven't got any photographs. But if we do, then, I mean, Rachel is saying to some extent we can't control everything our tenant farmers do, but if we've got a photograph of one of these dirty great things coming through, its number plate and its insignia on the side, at least we've got a start point. Especially if it says Boughton Estates all over it, which I doubt it will. But you know, at least that's a start point. Okay, but I do appreciate what we're saying. This might just be one of those things that just we can't resolve. I don't want to be defeatist, but I don't see an easy end to this, but we can make some inroads by photographs. Let's move on. So the last action, action 11. Now this was, again, I'm not sure if we've got a slight crossed wires. The issue, the item raised the last meeting, I think it was Adrian that raised it, was potential closure of the river bridge to traffic. So it kind of moved on from the ford. And it was asked, why can the bridge not be closed to traffic? Hence my comments back to Alison earlier on. So I'm just reading there. So council orders, so this was a highways decision as to whether it would be allowed. Yep. Highways were asked at the time, so this was going back quite some time ago, way before my time, whether it would be allowed. The answer was no. The action was clerked to write to highways initially to find out if permission can be granted for partial closure, but Historic England will have to be contacted to give their permission. So where are we with that, Anita? Because like I say, there may have been some crossed wires, but you may have written to them and got the answer.
I'm just having a look to see what I actually wrote. Bear with me. Yeah, I circulated the reply I got. The first thing they said is the route over the ford is public highway. Yeah, I'm just reading it. Yeah, it is up to the public to decide whether or not to cross the ford and close a road. Yeah, I'm not quite sure whether he's referring to the bridge or the actual ford, actually.
I think I read that, and I think it sounded to me like he's referring to the Ford. So either perhaps we didn't ask the right question, or perhaps he's answering a different question. But I think that was what Adrian wanted to bring, and I think we're all very interested to see what highways we're now saying in this day and age. Peter.
Yeah, if you read the way it's minuted, there are two different actions. There was the gating of the Ford and the closing of the bridge.
Yes.
We've got a definite answer on the gating of the Ford.
Yes.
We haven't had a response, and I don't think it was down as a different action on Anita, so I don't know if she's actually asked them about the closing of the bridge. But I think we can, let's be realistic. We know what the answer is going to be. It's going to be nothing less than it was when we talk about gating the Ford. They're going to say it's a highway and it can only be closed by highways and police following a traffic restriction notice.
You might be right, Peter. I would feel more comforted getting the official response, Anita. None of us are experts on this, and because that in one letter back they're identifying the Ford is a highway, yeah, and they're saying we can't close it without A or B or whatever. The question is, are they going to say the adjacent thing is also a highway, which is two-way? They may not. I'd like us to ask the question, Anita, if you don't mind, and be very
no, that's
clear
fine.
that's the bridge. Not just because the council's asked us to, but I think it's very, very pertinent. There's a large number of residents that have approached me on this over the last 4 or 5 years on this matter, and I think we kind of owe it to them, particularly parents, to go back with a decisive no for these reasons, or potentially or yes for these reasons, and now this is what we may or may not do.
Okay.
So sorry,
yep.
Peter, I'll take your point, and you're probably right, but I think we just need to see it through to.
Yeah, but I was agreeing with you. It was down as two separate exercises.
Yeah.
So yeah. I agree. We need to follow through with it.
Yeah. If you don't mind, Anita, please.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine.
Super. Thank you. Right. I don't think there's any other business, also any other queries with those minutes or any other actions. Going back to our agenda, what I'm going to do, I'm going to shift finance to just a little bit later, although we're running out of time. Anita, what we'll do is I think we'll pick finance up. If we're not there before, by 9:30, we'll cut off and pick up finance, discuss items 4A and 4C. And then what we'll do is we'll briefly discuss 4B, and then what we'll do is politely exclude you, what is going to be effectively be at the end of the meeting, if that makes sense. Is that all right, Anita, if we do it that way? Anita?
It's all right, it keeps cutting out.
Oh, am I cutting out, or are you? Is it me,
I'm picking up sort of about 1 word in 3, so it's enough to get through. But yeah, it's not just doing it with you, it's doing it with everybody, but
right.
It's enough for me to get the gist of what's being said.
Yeah, we'll put finance last item. We'll get to 9:30 come what may,
Right.
and we'll move your salary to the last piece so you can
Okay.
leave, and then we'll email
Yep.
you the result.
Yeah, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I'm going to move straight to planning then, Claire, please. And I think the first one is the Queen Street application.
Well, what I'll
sorry.
do first, I'll
Sorry,
do
yeah.
decisions if I can.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, my fault. Sorry, Claire, I'm rushing
Yeah,
ahead.
we've got 2 decisions. The first one is number 8 Bridge Street, and that was for replacement doors and windows, and that's been approved. And the second one is for 6 Chaseview Road, and that was for the height extension of a garage, and that's also been approved. I haven't seen anything else, including our own, yet. But
sorry, Claire, did the parish council object to that?
To which one?
The garage.
I don't think so.
I can't remember. That's why I'm asking.
No, they didn't object to it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Right. Okay. So I don't know whether there's a particular order you want to do these in. If you want me to wait wait and do the 17 Queen Street last, in case they want to join.
There's no one in the waiting room.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll start with 13 Wood Street. I'm just starting to bring up some screens. Hang on, I've got to try and share it myself.
Just put one up, Claire. I think we've hopefully all read the application and the documents, but if you just put one up for reference.
Okay, this I've put up 13 Wood Street. I don't know if you can see it.
Not yet, it's coming. There we go, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Good call. I think that's the best way of
Yes,
seeing it.
it does give a good idea. Now, what this one is, and this is for a single story. Now, depending on what your view is, it's either rear or side, because the house is, if you can see my cursor, is just here. It's the second in a row, a semi-detached. This one over here, that's the back end of it, and it's going out to the side, out here. Let me try and bring something else up. Okay, so this is a better picture here. What they intend on doing is having it's a single story extension with doors on the end, with a gable. Is it gable? I've lost all my words now. Yeah, so you can see it just here. It's going to, what did I write down? It's going to be made of timber. So it's an oak frame with oak doors to the end of it. It's just a very small house, I would say, that's having an extension. I don't think it will be overlooked at all by the residents here of Castle Gardens, the bungalows here. I think they've already got fencing and things in the way existing. I don't know, I haven't really got anything to say about it, to be honest.
My observation would be, just from having done a few churchyard clearances, that land, it's kind of betrayed there. It is very, very depressed, the land. I think everything else is kind of built up fairly high round about it. So the churchyard, again, from earth being piled into the churchyard for reburials or new burials, it's actually quite a little basin of land. So from a visual perspective, it probably wouldn't be as visible as you would think. If you look at that plan towards the bottom of the page, again, it does sit in a bit of a basin. That's all I would say at this stage, from my observation.
Chair, I'd move support.
Yeah, this is the extension here. It is the same, more or less the same width as the house, but it is a 3-story house. So it does look huge on this picture, but I don't think it is, because the actual footprint of the house.
I sense we want to move on. Does anybody have any more comment on this?
I've made a proposal, Chair.
John's made a proposal. Anybody wish to second that?
Perhaps you need to repeat a proposal.
I didn't think.
The proposal was to support.
Yeah.
Does anybody wish to second that proposal? Yeah, okay. I can't see, we're restricted.
I'm waving my hand.
Yeah, sorry, Peter, we can only see half of you. So thank you. So the proposal is that we have no objection to this application. All those in favour? Okay, I think I'm trying to scroll one-handed. Okay, thank you very much. Those who do not agree with the proposal and abstain. We have 2 abstentions. There's 2 abstentions, Anita, and I believe it's 5 in support.
Okay.
Thank you, Claire.
Okay, so I'll take us now. I will go to 17 Queen Street.
Okay.
Let me see if I can bring
That's good timing. He's just arrived.
that. Okay. Now, this is an amended plan. I'm not really sure why it's been amended. Something to do with bats, but I'm not sure whether it actually affects what we're looking at, because we had this amended form came through earlier. Is the resident able to?
I think he's just joining from what we can
say
see. Claire.
about it?
He did. Oh,
Hello,
There's Nathan.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So that looked like perfect timing.
It was actually. It was. We'd just started to. Claire was just briefing us on your application.
All right, okay.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Does the resident want to just quickly tell us the proposal?
Yeah. So we moved into the house just over a year ago. We're up here on Queen Street. The basis of what we're trying to achieve is I don't know if you know the property very well, but on the plans it should show it on one of the drawings where the main garden is to the left of the house. So the house is set back from the road. We've got a little bit of a drive in front. There is a small courtyard around the back to one side because it's a single story kitchen on the back. But the main garden area to the side, at the moment, there's only 2 windows that overlook the garden. One's the utility room and one's the attic, which doesn't really get used. So the plan originally was to try and open the house up to incorporate the garden. I mean, we've got young children, you know, so it kind of flows into the garden. They're out playing, you can see them, etc. Naturally, as well, at the same time, we've got a bit of space, so we were looking to extend the property to give us the space we need to basically to turn it into a substantial family home, and tick the boxes of what we really wanted to achieve out of it, because we the space is there. The plan was to try and do it very tastefully and traditionally to match up what's already here and basically to add to it rather than to ruin the view, if that makes sense. So what we've proposed to do, as you can see on the plan you're looking at now, you've got the drive coming in off Queen Street. We're looking to replicate as you look at the property, the right hand side, we're looking to replicate that over on the left, which is I think where you've got your mouse there. So I'm on my phone, so it's a bit small. And then that opens up onto the gardens, and then round the back, where it says conservatory, that's basically linking onto the existing kitchen, single story kitchen, barn at the back, basically to open up the kitchen to make it larger, and again just lend it to going out towards the garden area. And then we've got a smaller extension on the back, eating into the courtyard, which just gives us a little bit more extra space upstairs in the bedroom, and it also allows us to put in a proper staircase that would be into building regulations that allow us to use the attic, make it a little bit more usable. It has been converted at some point by Boughton Estates when they owned the property, but the stairs are very, very tight, and to be honest, they wouldn't really pass building regs at the moment. So that bit on the back, that was kind of the process of that, is to get an actual proper stairs going up to the 3rd floor. And then we've got the garage over on the other side. There's an existing garage there now. It's twisted round, so it comes out. So it's narrower than that garage shows, but it comes out further towards the where that tree's shown at the moment. It's there on the plans. I can't remember the year it was built, but it's like a budget construction, if that makes sense. So we're looking to take that down and rebuild that, so to tidy that and make it look a bit nicer. That's really it.
It's not a listed property, is it?
It's not. No.
It's not. No. And I think what I can see, it's 3 sort of separate extensions all going on at the same time, plus
Correct.
the garage.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, let's see what else.
Could I was waving, so can I just ask a couple of questions?
Please.
Obviously, the original consultation was due to end tomorrow. There were some amended drawings that have gone in, so we're looking now at amended drawings as the current ones.
Yes.
Can you summarise what the difference is? Because I spent a lot longer looking at them with the original drawings, and the fact that the new ones came in and only had a chance to look at it just before the meeting.
So the change is the garage, basically. So I'm just looking what you're looking at there now. Is there a drawing there that shows the elevation of the garage?
Excuse me.
I might be back on this one. Yeah, this is the amended one.
We've got the location of the garage, haven't we?
Yeah.
No, I think that, I don't know if that is the amended one, if that's the original one.
I've
Basically,
marked it as the amended one. So.
all right. Could you scroll up on your screen a moment, please, to the top of the drawing?
Yeah.
So you see the garage roof. On there, so you've got the pitch of the garage, and then the pitch changes at the end, at the gable end nearest the street. So the roof then slants down and adjoins the existing stone wall, which does need to be rebuilt, to be honest, because it's not in very good nick. What the amendment is that's gone in is basically having that gable end as a gable end without seeing a picture of the roof returning there into the wall. And then it's offset about, I don't think it was quite a metre, but it's, say between half a metre and a metre away from the wall. So the existing wall stays the same as it sees today, same height, etc., coming across. But the garage, you'd see a gable end of the garage as opposed to seeing the pitch of the roof changing and coming and tying into the wall.
Right. So this that's on the screen, the northwest elevation, that's the one that we would, instead of seeing tiles there and a hip roof going away from us, we'd see a gable end.
Correct. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, the reason behind that was when we were looking at what we're trying to achieve out of the garage, because there's a room above, it was eating in a lot into the space. The other side of it as well, I was looking at the wall as it is now, which I know obviously we can change because of new construction and everything. But the existing garage roof is pitched the other way round, so it does actually sit on the wall as it stands now. But if you have a look at it, the wall is actually starting to bow slightly, because I think the majority of it is to do with the rainwater runoff, because it's running off, it's coming down the wall. You can see where it's starting to affect the wall and the structure of the wall in that position. So that was one thing, and like I said, the biggest thing for us was actually to do with the space in the room above the garages as such.
Okay, so if we look at it from that which has been altered, or the impact it has on any resident, it is simply, well, I say simply, it is the feature that walking up and down Queen Street, the wall with the roof going off it would now be a wall. Are you saying that the gable end would be set in from that wall, or it would be a continuation of that wall?
No, yeah, it'd be set in slightly from the wall. So you'd see the wall, and then you'd obviously see the gable end. So that would be matching, ideally matching construction to the cafe. If you look at Cafe Oak and the gable end there that faces our house, so it's the timber construction. So it'd be like a nice soft wooden construction, that gable end. Because I think if we did it out of stone, which again you could look at that, but I think again against the wall, because it'd be set back in, it'd probably look a little bit too much, where the timber just softens it up a little bit.
Understood.
Do you want me to put it on the screen?
Yeah, if you got it, yeah. That's the one.
So that's the new one.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense.
And I think there was an artist. I think there was an artist impression of that, looking in on that side. Is that on the same drawing? No, I don't think it is actually.
Well, what we're
I
pulling up
see one in the
drawings.
pack.
Yeah, well, while we're looking for drawings, the applicant did point out the situation on the wall. I mean, the application as it stands says that wall's going to be rebuilt. Is it still your intention to rebuild that wall?
Yes, it needs it.
It is bowing. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is. It is bowing. Yeah, yeah. It does. It does need it. That was the only concern I had as well with the garage roof sitting on top of the wall. I mean, obviously everything's achievable, but we'd have to strip the wall back down. God knows what the foundations are there at the moment. We'd have to put in, because obviously it's a retaining structure, but then it would also take the stability of the structure of the garage as well. You know, we put in some decent, serious foundations. So I just felt it would be better not to undermine the wall. Still needs to be rebuilt, and then bring the garage off that as a separate foundation, really. The two, I don't know until we speak to a structural engineer with that one. They may need to be linked. I'm not 100% sure. But yes, no, in answer to your question, the wall does need to be rebuilt because it is bowing aesthetically. It doesn't look very nice. So, you know, part of this process is basically taking the house and giving it some love and making it look as nice as it should be in the area and setting that it's in.
Yeah.
Okay, any councillors have any comments or questions?
I have a comment that is relative to that wall, which is obviously that is a conservation area. So I'm sure the planning officer will be putting requirements in about the rebuilding of the wall to the same style using the coarse rubble.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
go on, Peter.
I was going to say, if just so that we can move on, I think it's an ambitious build project that the resident has, and as he mentioned, it does have the potentially a replication of one wing, so it makes it a double front winged property. And if it's done, it does say within the application that it will be done in the same style as the other side. So it's obviously the intention to make them marry in. So I think it looks. I wouldn't have any objection to it.
Yeah, it is ambitious, Nathan. You know, you're increasing the footprint quite significantly. But again, just from a kind of lay point of view, you're building out towards the north where it is actually, to be fair, you have got a big open space there. It is slightly disproportionate. In terms of street scene, there is no other house like that on Queen Street. It's set back from the road. Three out the kind of four extensions you want to do will be hardly visible to anybody, except maybe people using the bowls or the tennis courts. So it looks really ambitious. I'm trying to think though, from a kind of parish council or residents perspective, what any objection would be. I think you're going to have your work cut out, with the materials and the matching, but you've clearly thought about that. And like Peter, though, at the moment, whilst it knocks you back a bit, I can't really see, from a parish council perspective, any significant issue with it, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's ambitious, but that's, I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry, no, I've just got to defer to the councillors because we do have to press on. We've got 10 minutes left before we have to, and we've got two other applications. Any other councillors, any view on this before we move to a proposal? Okay. Thank you. Peter, do you have a proposal?
Yeah, no objection.
I second that.
Yeah. All those in favour of no objection to this application? Thank you. I think that was 5 there, Nita. And against? Abstain? 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. Did you get all that, Anita? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So Nathan, that's we've voted to no objection to your application. So again,
Lovely, thank you very much. Yeah.
Best of luck.
No, I know. Thank you. No, we'll get it done if we can.
Great. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome to carry on while we discuss others, but you may want to flee while the going's good. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'll take it there and I'll leave it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, guys. Bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye now. Great. Thank you. Oh, David, welcome back. Can you hear us, David?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, just let you know. Yeah, we voted to approve that caravan park. So
yeah, brilliant
good stuff. You shouldn't have left the meeting.
Some of us have already taken up the offer of having one of them.
I'm a bit worried. The rate of suicide's going up at the moment.
Can I remind everyone?
I can see why.
Thank you, Mark.
Right, we have got 9 minutes left, David. We're gonna switch to finance, and if we've not got to finance by 9:30, we're going to move
We've
to
got one more planning application.
I thought
By
we
the
got
way.
one more. Sorry, go on, Claire.
Okay, now my Adobe stopped working, so I can't bring up any screens, which is really a nuisance.
This was the second one. This was in Newton Village, wasn't it?
Well, no, this isn't actually. This is 25A Queen Street. I don't know when this came through, quite recently, by the number.
Okay,
And
we've got
this
one
is
in
an
Newton. Sorry, Claire, we've got one in Newton on the agenda.
but it's gone. It was the 8th. I missed it.
The one in Newton has consultation ended on the 8th.
Is this
Right.
That's quite right. There is a new one now on the website, KET 2020-0698 for 25A Queen Street.
Oh,
Queen
right.
Eleanor, rather.
Sorry, yeah, Queen Eleanor Road. Sorry, did I say Queen Street? Let's see if I can.
Can I comment on the Newton one?
I think it's gone, David. You can, but it's
yeah. I mean, just to give you some comfort, I think people here are actually quite comfortable with it. It's a garage between two houses, but it's going to be set down in the ground, so it'll go. You'll hardly see it. It's about hedge height at the peak, at the apex, so we're comfortable with that.
I think the fact that everyone had an opportunity to mention it actually earlier and nobody did is comforting. So yeah, thanks, David. Right, sorry, let's expedite this then, Claire. So
okay, right, I've got it working now. So yes, this is 25A Queen Eleanor Road, and this is a property. Let me see if I can pull up the right page with a location. No, I can't find anything. I don't know. Can you see it all?
Just see some elevations, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what this is at the moment they've got a carport with a little bit of storage above it. I think they want to raise the height. Right. This is it here. This gives a better impression. Now this is it as it is. And the proposal is to raise the height of the roof of this section here and using timber cladding, because it's an old barn, and then use the rest of the, so they can use the room below it as a part of the house. Here we go. And have a room above it. So it's this section here that faces onto Queen Eleanor Road, which you saw from that photo. It's not a listed building, but it is a non-dedicated heritage asset. And it's near to some listed buildings at the bottom of the garden along West Street.
Yeah.
Can you explain, Claire? Timber cladding seems very odd for what is a stone barn attached to a stone house.
But this is how they visualised it just here, so that they're not having to mimic the brickwork, I assume. If you can see, sort of...
extend the stonework up.
Wow.
I think that looks awful. I'm sorry, that just does not look as if it would fit in with that with the current environment. I would be against that entirely.
Is that facing? That's not facing the street, is it? Because
Yeah, that's the street view.
The top one's the street view, John.
the top one's the street view, yeah. Because
Yeah.
so it wouldn't actually impinge on the street view. It's,
Well, apart from you would see the wooden cladding of this, and it obviously then it doesn't look like an old barn anymore. It looks like they've done something to it. Because currently it just looks like an old barn, really.
which is what it is.
Yeah, it's just an old barn.
The significance on the street view is purely that view, that top one on the screen at the moment.
Yeah.
They're increasing the height of the building by 1.2 meters, which means it puts the roof up, and the extension is, as we're discussing there, they've opted to go for an extension on top of the existing stone wall of timber clad. And that is the point that David was referencing. But all of the work that goes on in those other two views there is very much around the back of the property, and it has no impact on the street view at all.
No, you would never see any of this. And actually, even from those that they mentioned listed properties along West Street, they probably wouldn't be able to see this either. They don't have very good views. Let's have a closer look.
But if we feel that the development isn't sympathetic to the house, then we can still object to that, can we not?
On materials.
Indeed.
I think where they're putting the timber on, I suppose, to distinguish between the old and the new, the fact that it's not part of the original barn.
Or cost.
Yeah, that as well. This gives you an idea of what it will be at the end. I think this is a second. They're extending this dormer from this roof height as well out the back from the higher roof, so they can actually use it. But none of that will be visible to anybody.
In a way, if you look at the plans there, it doesn't look too bad, but when you see the drawings, it looks really odd, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the original picture, if you like, which is.
Yeah, we need to bring this to a close. So that roof is going to raise substantially, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be in line with this one.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so you're just going to have a timber section all the way around, and then all the back will be timber clad. I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, I don't even really, I drive along here all the time. I don't even really notice it.
I think you would if that was.
Yeah, it might.
I think that's a very significant roof along that street, actually. I always notice it.
Yeah, I think I would feel much more comfortable if they were suggesting they were going to match the stonework that was on the street and then use the wood at the front of the house. But putting a wooden panel on there would be unpleasing to me. But
my input is that I have no problem with the size or style of the work that they're doing. It is purely a recognition that the street scene is different because they would have timber on there, and that may be a reservation that we'd have.
Yeah.
So we do have the opportunity of only raising an objection relative to the use of materials on that face, if that was the way that we wanted to go.
Seems like a very sensible way forward.
Yes, it seems a shame. I mean, it's a lovely looking old building. They could make it a little less obvious.
Yeah, I go with Peter.
Okay, so the proposal is that we object to the specific use of that material on the front of the street side of the property.
Yeah.
And that's a proposal from Peter, and the proposal seconded from John. All those in agreement with that?
Sorry,
Well, sorry, Paul, we rushed ahead. Go on.
That's okay. Could just clarify, are we objecting to just the bit along the side of the road or the side as well?
I think the proposal is just the materials used on the street side. That was the proposal.
Well, you do see the end of the building from the street.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to
I
object
think
to,
it's all or nothing, because you can't have stone round one side and then it just would not look right.
Yeah, so then amend my proposal, whether we need to vote on that or not, but by all means, have a counter proposal that it is the aspects that are viewable from the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. John, do you second that? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Abstain? Against? Thank you.
Can I just clarify that? So from the other side that won't be seen, you're happy for the wood to go on that side? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no objection. I mean, in practical terms, in construction terms, they probably wouldn't be able to do it, but we're going to, I think the objection is to the, as Paul said, it's the parts visible from the street.
Right, yeah.
Which are effectively the north and the west.
Yeah, we don't have to say that we are okay with the rest of it. That's what our objection is.
Yeah, we're objecting to the north and the west.
Yeah.
The materials used from the north and the west.
Okay.
Right, thank you. It's right. It's now 9:32. We are supposed to really move to the finance now because we've got to capture that. But however, that would mean I've just noticed. I mean, we're going to have to miss all the environment, but the white paper, Claire. Do we have to? That's due in, isn't it? Before the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the 29th, I think, of October. It's due.
Okay.
I did circulate something earlier. I'm really fed up of it now. And I don't know, I'm getting confused over which white paper's which, I think, as we all are.
Claire, I think you've run out of steam, but I think it's really good. I think you've captured it for me, for what I've read. I think you've captured the points well, and I know it's been a bit of a slog, so thank you.
Yes, the NCAL didn't put anything out, any draft responses or anything like that I could find, so just making it up now.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments at all on the version circulated?
Only just for what you've said. As I answered Claire's email earlier, she addresses within a couple of paragraphs 9 of the 29 points that we raised, and essentially that covers the. There was a lot of duplication between the points that we minuted, so I believe that it summarises our position.
In that case, can I propose that we send the response as Claire has circulated to the white paper? Peter? Are you seconding that, Peter? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yes.
Yes, right. All those in agreement with that proposal? Thank you.
I'll send it on to you, Anita. I don't think I included you. Well, so I'll send it on.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Claire.
no, I didn't get it, no.
Sorry, I just want to finish that vote. Against? And abstain? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Claire. I just wanted to make sure we finished the vote there.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Were there any abstentions? Because I can't see across.
Yeah, Dave Rushton.
Right.
Okay. We really need to move to finance quickly. I'm just looking through. There was a couple of bits of correspondence which will move to some issues around parking, which will move to the agenda for the next meeting. I don't think there's anything too crucial tonight, but we do need to get this on the agenda. Very quickly, under environment, Peter, is there anything crucial that we need to make a quick decision on before we move to finance? I'm looking through. I can brief people on the forward flood signage on an email. I'm looking around, but is there anything there that we just need to cover off quickly, do you think? Sorry to rush you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are a lot of items down there, but there's nothing that is going to spoil between now and the next meeting, because the residents' comment about parking the GigaClear don't intend to be making good that area on Skeffington until sometime in the future.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing that's spoiling.
Okay. Thank you. In that case, we'll move to finance. I suggest we go, I know this has been a jumble tonight. Can we go in order 4A, 4C, then 4B, please? So Anita, over to you for bank balances, please.
Yep, I circulated the finance. The bank balances, they're exactly the same as last month because we've moved to online banking, but nobody, no councillor has been able yet to approve anything. It's exactly the same. So the community account statement, £49,393.26. Business saver account, £10,778.18. I circulated the list of the payments that need to be paid. I did actually phone Barclays up again today, but I'll circulate that round later on because we need to get this online authorization sorted.
I'm going in there tomorrow, Anita. I do bank with Barclays and I've gone on my online banking and it's not there. So I'm going to have to go in tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
See them. So, okay.
Yeah, Chairman, I spoke to my contact at Barclays. She's given me a telephone number. It's a London number, but quite frankly, today I've just been up to my ears in it. I haven't had a chance to call it, but she assures me that they can make sure it's sorted.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, Anita, what? Sorry, I'm just trying to see where we are on the.
I circulated it. I don't know whether you want to pull it up or I can just read out what the payments are.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, we'll do the accounts for payment then. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so you want me to read them out then?
Yes, please.
Right. Okay.
Oh no, there's no need to. Sorry, Anita, no need to read them out. There's quite a lot there.
Yeah.
So has everybody got those to hand?
I've put them separate because the last two, I've put those under salary review because although it's as per the national pay scale sent through by NCALC, it's obviously up to yourselves to accept it or not. So I have put those separate just in case you decide not to.
We'll leave those separate, but the other ones, has everybody got, we've got another 7 there on the screen. To be fair, let's just gonna share the screen just a moment. Okay, so we've got those. Can everybody see that yet?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So we've got 7 accounts for payment there. Does anybody want to ask any questions about those or tackle any of them?
Well, the only thing that Anita probably wants to point out, the Mad Landscapes shows shows excluding that on there, and the actual payment will be including that.
Yeah.
So it'd be 333 and VAT on the top, Anita. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 333 plus VAT, which is 396.
Right. Thank you.
But we do get the VAT back.
Yes.
The second item, the tree works in the meadows, that was done. I did see it.
Yes, that's good. Actually, that's a good price. I think we approved much more than that, didn't we? So that's good.
Yes.
It's good that we got that expedited. Thank you, Peter and Anita. Okay. They all look in order to me.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything else? Excellent. So can I propose that we accept those 7 accounts for payment, please? That's my proposal.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody wish to second that?
I waved.
Oh, sorry. No, I'll stop sharing so I can see what's going on. If I can. I'm not sure
Sorry,
I can do
so
this.
who proposed it?
Sorry, I proposed, Anita. Peter seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? Oh, this is tricky. Abstain. Okay, thank you. Just bear with me a second. I'm trying to unshare this now. Oh, here we go. Stop share. I'm not used to Teams. Zoom, rather. Okay. Thank Thank you very much. Let's jump to item 4C then for 5 minutes or so. Initial budgetary discussion for 21 to 22 to include capital projects for the next financial year. But obviously, one of the key things, David, you were talking about, or you mentioned briefly offline, was this the issue around, for a start, costs for election next year as well.
That'll be £2,000 or just over 2,000.
Okay.
The issue to my mind is whether there's anything else, and that's we spoke earlier. I will raise that at Rural Forum tomorrow. My guess is that this will be subject to all sorts of discussion over the next 2 or 3 years, but I fear that we may see substantial increases in the precept.
As we said, and I think we spoke offline. It's a difficult one. Well, every year we have this, which is, well, should we suddenly be given this responsibility or that responsibility? Legislating for all of that means that we could end up precepting the parish and then they pay it through the council tax, which is what we can't do. However, if we get any firm notes over, well, this is your financial responsibility, then we must incorporate it.
Yeah.
And
the problem I have is that we have to put the budget in next month. It has to go, the precept has to go to the council by the end of January. Once that's done, we then can't, if we want to raise another sum of money because we've got costs which we didn't know about, I think we have to have a referendum, and that'll cost an arm and a leg. And that's why I'm keen to ask the questions now.
Yes.
But we've been trying to ask those questions literally since Unity was first tabled.
I understand.
Yeah, I know. I'm not remotely criticising. I'm saying we as a parish council, we can't get that information. All we can say is that where there has been a decision made, such as the requirement to pay for our own elections if elections are required, a decision has been made. We have been given that and told there's a likely cost for that if we were to have an election. So surely the approach would hopefully be from unitary that where there are changes, we are being notified of changes, and it's just the fact that we are still whistling in the dark. We don't know of any changes.
Well, the difficulty from my point of view is it's a 10% increase just in case we have an election. We haven't had an election in years.
It's almost an encouragement for us not to have an election.
Well, yeah.
There's a firm one there. To be discussed in more detail next month.
Well, by next month, I will have. After tomorrow evening, I'll put together a formal budget.
Yes. Because on top of our usual increased sum for capital projects, and of course we have the car park hopefully happening in this next few months. We will need to get back to the Newton entrance and have another look at that as well. The School Parents Association are, and I hope to get more detail for next month, are looking to build a multi-use games area. I don't know of all the detail.
And multi-story car park.
looking to if they can raise a certain amount of money, can get matching grants. Now I'll get all the detail for the next meeting, but speaking to a couple of senior people in the PA, they're embarrassed, a bit embarrassed to ask, but they've said effectively, can the parish council contribute towards it? If they get to a certain figure, then they'll get a matching grant. Now, bear in mind, this was in the parish plan for such an item. I think that'll need a little bit of focus. So I'm only mentioning that at this stage. I think this council would need to consider their plan, where they are, what this facility would cover, how it could benefit the community. I think there's some good positive intentions, but it's likely I'll bring that to the meeting next. Mark.
Yeah, there's plenty of grants around where they provide 10% and the grants will give them the rest, like we used on the playground. We paid £7,000 for a £75,000 playground.
Okay. Is there any more before we move on? So, David, any more do you need from us from this evening? Like I said, there's
nothing more this evening. I just need some thought and information as soon as possible about projects such as the one you've just talked about. We won't have to make a decision on whether we back a project like that, but if we got some idea of what the costs are, we could build it into the budget.
Right.
But it's like all of these things, you know, if we're talking about a substantial extra budget, my guess is it might come out of the resources we actually have, depending on how much we're talking about. You know, if we were talking about £1,000, it's a different issue to talking about 10,000. If it were £1,000, we could put that into the budget. It wouldn't actually affect the precept because it could come out of reserve. So I just need to get a feel for the sort of money we're talking about, so we can then finalise the budget in for January.
Right. Well, if I can get some information in the interim, I'll circulate it, and then we'll look to discuss at the next meeting rather than me bring it afresh to see what they'd like. David, I'd imagine the request will be somewhere between the 1,000 and the 10,000, but I'll bring everything to that meeting or in the meantime. Okay. Right. Cognizant of time, I think we need to move to the last point. So Anita, I think, again, we normally ask you to leave the room at this point, which is a little bit tricky. I think just in the interests of kind of convenience for yourself more than anything, I think that it just this last item we'll discuss and then obviously communicate the outcome to you. I think unless anyone objects, we can give Anita an early shower and we can continue to discuss. Peter?
Mark, just pop in the waiting room for a minute, because if we had an opportunity, there are a couple of the issues within the environment. If we didn't spend too long on discussing this, there were a couple of issues on the environment that I really did need to table.
Peter, I think it's more the issue with the YouTube, actually. Mark?
Well, first of all, you need to get someone to propose and second the motion that we go into on camera. But also switching YouTube back on is going to be a bit of a pain in the backside. In fact, I'm not sure how it's going to work, to be honest. And we've only got 13 minutes anyway.
Okay.
Well, it's only going to take 2 or 3 minutes to deal with the salary. I mean, saying no is quick.
Just to say, in future, we could always use some OBS software. That way, then you could actually switch it off rather than use Zoom, which would save a lot.
Can we just not take Peter's couple of points first and then...
Go on then. Yeah, okay. Let's do that then, Peter. If you're aware of the time that we have, so okay. If you can cram into that.
I'll cover them in a couple of minutes. It's just a question of how
Someone
much
needs to
we might
minute
need
this
to discuss it.
Clearly.
Sorry?
Someone needs to minute this clearly.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. I need to stay with us for now.
Yes, we haven't lost that was the point. Okay. A specific on the Village Hall car park. The feedback we've had feedback from the police, from the NCC, from NCC archaeologists, and from Sports England, all as consultees. The only thing I really need to bring to the parish council's attention is because Sports England, there is an issue that they've raised about whether there's room for the boundaries to fit in with the car park. We've addressed that. I've had a meeting with the cricket club, and it's not a problem as far as the cricket club are concerned. So in other words, it seems to be something of a red herring. But what the ECB have said is that they would require us to have a ball strike risk assessment done. There's only one company that ECB approves to do that. It's a company called Labosport. I have spoken to them today. The cost of them doing that is £250. There are a number of other issues I mentioned that I'm in discussion with the archaeologists and highways and the police about. They're not major stumbling blocks. If the only major stumbling block has been this limitation on space, if we can address that satisfactorily by the cricket club doing their response, it's just a question of the £250 cost of doing a ball strike risk assessment. And if we can't, I wanted to take that at this meeting, such that we could agree that if it was approved on everything subject to having that done, that we would be able to get it done and I could authorise it. If not, then we're going to have to come back to the next meeting and discuss it again.
Chairman, we ought to have it down and approve it subject to that.
So say again, David.
I propose that we approve it subject to that. I think that's sort of an assessment we really ought to have done anyway.
Absolutely, I second that.
All those in favour? Great, thank you. That's unanimous, Anita. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. That was the main thing I wanted to address because it would impact timescales. Thank you very much for taking it.
No, Peter, thank you. Thanks for being pushy. Actually, that was the right thing to do. Thank you. Appreciate that. Are we all right now to revert to the last item?
Yep.
Okay. All right then. Anita, thank you very much.
Go to private session.
Thanks very much, Anita. We'll be switching off YouTube as well. So thanks very much.